Hello guys, welcome back today. I have some sad news to talk about. Marian Hossa officially confirms that his career in hockey, not just the NHL, but in hockey in general, is over. Now, we pretty much knew that he was done from the NHL, not entirely hockey, but we pretty much know his NHL career is over. But I felt like it was pretty important to talk about his career and what he's done for the NHL. Now, even though he's not playing anymore, his contract will still be valid for the Chicago Blackhawks. He'll still be on LTIR, so he'll still be kind of somewhat with the organization in contract terms, but the Chicago is probably going to look to get that contract out of some hands and maybe to a team that needs to get to the cap floor. We could see a team like Arizona getting that contract just because of the cap and just because they need that cap to get at least to the cap floor. So we could see Marian Hossa as an Arizona Coyote in quotes. Now, of course, he had to retire because of his health, of course, being somewhat allergic to the NHL equipment, which, of course, I had some skepticism of. It seemed mighty convenient for Chicago that Hossa had an allergy to the NHL equipment. All of a sudden, after playing for 20 years, he now has an allergy. I don't necessarily get it, but I'm kind of not really as salty as for it right now. Honestly, it doesn't really matter too much because he probably was going to retire in a year or so. So it really didn't matter too much, but it was awfully convenient then. Even though it didn't really help Chicago there, as they probably could have used Hossa's offense. It was still mighty convenient for that cap space. Now, it's not a knock on Hossa because I think he was telling the truth about the allergy. Even though there's some conspiracies about it, I do think that he was telling the truth. I don't know why you wouldn't, in all honesty. It seems convenient. It seems convenient for Chicago, but I think it actually was convenient, and there really wasn't anything behind it. But at least the allergy wasn't when he was like 25, when he was still having a young career. At least it was towards the end of it, where it didn't really matter too much. He probably was going to retire in a year or two, even if he didn't have that. But let's start looking at his career and how it really unfolded. Now, he started his career with the Ottawa Senators in 1997 and 1998, all the way through 2003 and 2004, and in that span, he had a very good career. He had a lot of seasons there, and he was playing very decent with the Ottawa Senators. He had a couple of fantastic seasons there. He really did perform great there, too. Then in 2005, there was a blockbuster trade sending Marian Hossa to the Atlanta Thrashers for Danny Heatley coming to the Ottawa Senators. And looking back on it, I think Ottawa kind of got the better deal there. But still, Hossa had a couple of great seasons with Atlanta Thrashers, and two of his best seasons were with Atlanta. So even though it wasn't a long-term success for really either team, I think that both Heatley and Hossa played very well for the teams that they were on for even a short amount of time. He had 3 great seasons with Atlanta before being traded at the trade deadline in 2008-2009 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, that's the famous season where the Pittsburgh Penguins lost to the Detroit Red Wings in the Cup final. It was a close series, but they weren't able to get it out. So Hossa in the Cup final, but was not able to get it out. It sucks for him, but so far he didn't have any rings then. Then in that offseason, because he was a UFA with the Pittsburgh Penguins, that was his last season of his contract. He goes and signs, I think it was a 1-year deal with the Detroit Red Wings, has a great season, and they're on to the Cup final, and who are they facing? The Pittsburgh Penguins. Hossa trying to beat his former team, and no, the Pittsburgh Penguins beat the Detroit Red Wings in that season, and Hossa obviously trying to feel pretty devastated after he was on Pittsburgh facing Detroit, loses, go to Detroit, and then facing Pittsburgh in the other round, and then loses. It was devastating for him, and obviously not lucky at all. And he was the laughingstock for a while there until he signed a 12-year deal, a gigantic deal with Chicago in 2010. And, of course, that was the season where they won the Cup the first time around. And then, of course, he had that couple of great seasons in there. Then in 2013, they won the Cup. And then a couple of other great seasons. And then in 2015, he won the Cup. So with Chicago, obviously, he finally got redemption. But it took 3 Cups to get there, but he got the 3 Cups. And with Chicago, he had a pretty good run there. He wasn't dominant like he was in Atlanta and Ottawa and somewhat Detroit, but he still had a pretty solid career with Chicago. So basically, while people were laughing at him and switching teams on going to the wrong teams in the offseason, he did get the last laugh with Chicago, getting 3 Cups, so obviously he was happy in the end. Now his career good totals were dominant. He had 1,309 games played. Amazing. That's a great total in the league for a long, long time there. I think it was 20 years there. Then he has 525 goals, which is great for him. 609 assists. Again, fantastic for 1,134 points, which is amazing. Close to a point per game, but it was about 200 points back, but still fantastic. 1,134 points and 1,309 games played. That's brilliant. And he had 3 Cups with Chicago there, of course, as I said before, but an illustrious career and a fantastic one. A career that most everybody would want. And Hossa was dominant in the league for a long time, especially in his early season with Ottawa and Atlanta. But he kind of trailed towards the end, but stayed consistent. He wasn't that dominant guy with Chicago, but he stayed consistent around that 50 and 60-point mark, which you got to give kudos to him, as he was getting up there in age, but still putting up pretty decent numbers there. Is he a Hall of Famer? I think he has to be, no doubt. I think he's for sure a Hall of Famer, a Czech legend, right up there with Yager, and he is one of the best Czech Republic players of all time, and obviously he's there, and I think he has to get Hall of Fame. I don't see him not being there. He's had such a long career, such a dominant career, that he has to be on there, no doubt in my mind, 100% in the Hall of Fame. Will he get his number retired with Chicago? That's a tough one, because Chicago is kind of lenient on retiring numbers. They've had some guys in the past that they haven't done it with that were really, really good and have really good careers with Chicago, so I don't know if they're going to do it that much. I mean, he only had like seven seasons with Chicago, which compared to a lot of guys that were around his production and didn't get the numbers, is kind of worrying. I don't think he's going to get his number retired with Chicago, which sucks because I think he does deserve it, but I don't know if they're going to do that. I just don't think that the sample size is big enough to warrant the Chicago Blackhawks, who have had lots of legends in their franchise history, given a number retirement for Hossa. He definitely deserves to have one for any team, but I just don't think the sample size for one team was big enough for him. Especially with Chicago, where they've had legend after legend after legend come through over all these years. I don't think that Hossa, even though he had a great career and had a pretty decent run with Chicago, I don't think that the sample size and the points production while he was in Chicago was good enough to warrant that. It would kind of be the same if Ottawa retired his number. I mean, he played 7 seasons there, so it is kind of comparable. He did play a little bit better with Chicago, of course, with the 3 cups with Chicago, but it would kind of be pretty much similar if Ottawa were to do that. Even though Ottawa has had a lot less legends in their franchise history, I still think it counts. But one of the best Czech Republic players of all time, no doubt. I think that he has to be in the Hall of Fame. I would riot if he didn't. He's that much of a great player. He's just been solid. He's been consistently great over all these years. He definitely deserves to be in there. And with the games played, with the numbers he brings up, he obviously deserves to be in there. I just don't think if they don't have him in there, that's him getting shafted. I think that he has to be there. He's a for sure Hall of Famer. I'd bet on it. An amazing player, amazing career, a dominant player towards the early 2000s and mid-2000s. He was fantastic throughout that period and one of the best players throughout that period, so he definitely deserves to be that way. He's probably going to be celebrated for a long time, and deservedly so. He's had an amazing career in the NHL and one to be desired by a lot of people, and a lot of NHL players too. So massive respect to him. He's one of the legends, especially when it comes to Czech Republic players. He's one of the best tops up there too. But that's going to be it for today, guys. Guys, enjoy. Make sure you like and subscribe, share with your friends. Tell me down below what you think of Marian Hossa. What do you think about his career? What do you think about his numbers? Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Should he not? Should he get his number retired with Chicago? Or should he not? And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.